Hey guys, welcome back to the Final Sun channel. I'm glad to have you all here. Today we're going to be going over elite heroic hives, and if you've gotten to the end game, you've probably already done this a few times. If you have done a hive before, you're aware that it's a gauntlet where you go through and you do a different number of floors depending on the kind of hive you're doing. And at the end you're rewarded with your prize of gear or materials or whatever is randomly given to you. This elite heroic hive is the best chance to consistently get exotic gear in the game right now, as you can just keep repeating it. However, it is long and it consists of 14 floors. What makes it different is that it actually uses your entire roster and has to be done on single player mode. So if you lose one character while you're playing, it swaps it out for another eligible character you have, and then continues on until either your roster is gone or you've completed the hive. Now that we have an understanding of what the elite heroic hive is and that people do it to get exotic gear, I'm going to give you guys some tips to make sure you get 100% each time you do it and give you the best chance to get exotic gear, because let's be honest, 14 floors is a lot and you don't want to have to keep repeating it. So let's dive down into it. If you guys find this video to be helpful in any way, you're doing me a huge favor if you like and subscribe. I appreciate the support and I really want to know what kind of things you're interested in too, so leave a comment down below and I'll try and make a video on that as well. Let's get started. If you guys have not yet unlocked the elite heroic hives, it is a pretty long process. You have to end up going and completing all the different objectives and stories and heroic missions and harm room missions so that you can unlock this hive. If you guys want to see a video on that, I can make one to help give you a guide through it. But for now, our focus is going to be how to 100% these. Before we get into the specific floors and tips I can give you to complete these different objectives, let's get into a few general tips to help you have the best chance to get exotic gear. One would be look for the insurmountable trait on your gear. If you find it, usually has a 5.5 to about 6% chance to increase the amount of gear you get for completing a mission. Equip that at the end. If you're doing single player, it pauses the game so you're able to equip it before you complete the last opponent, and then it'll have an extra bonus chance to drop you some gear. Never hurts to have a better chance to get exotics. Other than that, you should focus on doing healing items for the game. And what I mean by that are, go to your settings and change it so that when you do a finisher, it will cause your opponent to drop a regen pack. This is going to be incredibly crucial because you're not going to find as many of those as you're hoping for. And if you lose one of your characters while you're playing, it's not only going to decrease your percentage of how well you did in the mission, you are also going to go to your next character. And of course, if you don't have another character you can go to, it's the end of the match for you. The first kind of room we're going to go over is an assault room. If you've done a hive, you're familiar with these, you know that the objective is pretty simple: defeat everyone in the room. Now then, it's important to know that with all the glitches that are going out right now, sometimes you will complete all the enemies in the room and it will still not complete the objective. If this happens, then follow this instructions and you'll have to end up doing the objective again, but you won't lose any stars. Just press start and go return to checkpoint. When you do that, it'll take you right back to the beginning of the room, and as long as you haven't died and lost anyone, it's not going to subtract any stars from you. So do that until you're able to complete it. If you have someone who can do big AoE attacks, go search outside the room. What I mean by that is go along the walls towards the doors that maybe might have closed someone out and find them and finish them if you can hit them with an AoE attack, such as something Thor could do. Other than that, your objective is to wipe out everyone, and here's some tips to help you win. 1. You're going to be fighting adaptoids. Do not rush in and try and fight the adaptoids. When you do this, it's very helpful to use some AoE attacks to spread some of the enemies. If you're in a room such as the video I'm watching here, get the high ground and fight anyone up there. You're going to want to stay separate from the big crowd. Let your computers do the work and go down for you, trying to fight the armies while you're taking out the harder targets up top. It's more important to finish it and to take your time than to go down. Make sure to also pay attention to the kind of attacks they're shooting at you, because some enemies are going to be using attacks that might drain your heroic ability, and some might be using attacks that are going to freeze you in place with cryo damage. If you get frozen in place, there is a good chance an adaptoid or someone is going to light you up while you're frozen and in the match for you. Be careful of that, and be wary that you can use different armor to prevent the cryo from freezing you. Other than that, once you've finished everyone in the room, move on to the next objective and take the elevator. The next kind of room we're going to go over is the defeat enemy squad, and this is exactly like it normally is. It'll give you 5 opponents, usually all who have shield, and you're supposed to work with your team of computers to finish them off. These can be misleading because you get overconfident going in thinking you just have to finish the 5 people and then move on. Keep in mind they're all probably going to be enhanced and will have something up their sleeve to try and finish you off. Early in the floors they're not going to be as much of an issue, but make sure to not try and fight all 5 at the same time. That's going to be a repeated tip throughout this, is to not jump into danger. Let your computers get some of that damage focused towards them, let them have some aggro to get some of the bigger opponents away, and focus on taking them out one at a time. Again, being patient is going to be your best friend for this. Make sure you're aware of where the different regen capsules are in that room. If you're in a hallway, don't run by them all because you'll end up getting trapped on the other side. There are cases where one of them will run away and get reinforcements and come back and attack you with them. So make sure to not get stuck with those reinforcements and all 5 at the same time. Always go back for health when you're low on health. Don't be like, I have half health, I'm going to be fine. Either use a heroic ability, even if you think it's going to be a waste, to make yourself invulnerable or to heal, or get out of there to go heal. Do not risk going down just because you're trying to save a skill for a later time. The next kind of room you're going to encounter is a hack servers room. In my opinion, this is probably the easiest kind of room, but if you get caught off guard, you're going to fail it and not get your 5 stars, because it is one of the easiest rooms to lose a star if you're not paying attention. The objective is as it normally is. You have to hack the servers by standing on the square and keeping at least 2 of the 3 servers. If you're playing as a character who is focused on melee, this is a little harder to do, but just keep your eye out for different hackers running to the servers. What I mean by this is you actually are alerted when there is someone heading to hack a server. If you look, it'll put the gray objective diamond over top of their head while they're running to it. And if you can hit them and take them out before they get to it, or stall them by throwing them something like Thor's hammer to pin them in place, then that server is protected. The easier part about being a ranged character like Thor as well is you can guard basically all 3 at the same time by throwing your hammer and doing lightning damage to another enemy who's trying to hack a server. I really appreciate being able to do that, but I play as Captain America a lot and his shield doesn't quite cover the same kind of area that Thor's hammer does. If you keep an eye out as well, you can kind of see that your computers are going to focus on areas with a lot of villains. So if you see that they are focusing around one of the different areas, then don't bother trying to protect that area. Go hack another one and let Hulk or Thor or whoever's over there fighting a bunch of people stay in that area, because chances are as soon as someone's going to try and hack the server, they're going to hit them at least once. So that one is pretty much protected. Still keep an eye on it, but know that that one's probably fine, and focus on defending only 2. If you focus on trying to do all 3, you'll end up running back and forth, and they'll probably end up getting one out from under you, and they only have to get 25% for you to get 4 stars. I would recommend not jumping down to the middle of the room very often, because you might get trapped by some bigger enemies who take longer to climb and that you would not normally face unless you jump down to face them. So focus on the objective one here, and don't focus too much on trying to kill the enemies while you're doing it. There are different kind of sabotage missions. It usually either involves sabotaging servers, turbines, or power cores. All of them are pretty much the same, only that with power cores you have to pull them out and then break them. On single player it's not really that much of an issue because they actually stay out once you pull them. You don't have to hold them and wait for a computer to come bash them. Well, for obvious reasons, that would just be overbearingly hard to try and wait for a computer to come do that. If you have other players, they can do it, so I do understand why they made it stay out if you're doing it on single player. Tips for this one are pretty simple, but I will say I, in my personal opinion, think that this is the hardest room, other than maybe the last one. Sabotage rooms are tricky because the more you damage the servers, the turbines, the cores, the more enemies are going to spawn, and you're usually faced fighting different adaptoids such as the assault ones or cryo or any of them really. It doesn't matter which kind, they do get in the way. And when you're in a map like the one you see me in here, you don't have a whole lot of space to get around them. They can shoot you almost from anywhere they are on the map as long as they're on your level. And if you just keep going through and breaking turbines, you're going to end up at the end of this level with a huge army you have to face. Because even after you destroy all the turbines, you still have to clear the room before you can continue. It's something they don't tell you going into it, but if you don't clear that room while you break the turbines, you're going to end up making it a lot harder on yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten frozen on this map and an Adaptoid has one-shot me and I just had to start over. So keep that in mind to take your time with this room. It can be tricky. I know it's frustrating. It feels like a time sink doing it, but just make sure to finish your opponents as you go. The last mission in it is a defeat enemy squad. And I know I mentioned this already as one of the other rooms, but this one is slightly different. You can't treat it like a normal defeat enemy squad because it actually has a boss with it too, and you might not notice that unless you're paying close attention. If you remember from the story, Monica has her own exosuit that you have to fight, but if you're not paying close enough attention, you'll just think this is one of the elite exos again, and you'll not pay her a whole lot of attention. When you go in there, you're always going to have to fight her and 4 other people. It is important, super important, to not just run in there because they will freeze you and they will kill you pretty quickly. This is the biggest room that actually has the chance to kill you throughout the entire thing because it'll sneak up on you and they'll hit you with a big hit at the end and you'll lose all your rewards. They will sneak up on you, do a whole lot of damage, and cause you to lose that 100%. And after you've made it 14 floors, it just is frustrating to lose that 100%. And like I said, we're trying to get you through this entire thing with 100% and the best chance to get your exotic gear. Now then, as I mentioned earlier, there is some gear that has the insurmountable feature so that you can have a higher chance of getting gear when you complete the mission. What you should do is fight until you have one person left until they're about to die. Then go into your menu, equip this gear, and right before you finish, usually Monica, the last person standing, equip that gear insurmountable and get that bonus chance to get an extra piece of gear at the end of the mission. This is the most consistent way you can currently do to get your exotics, as mega hives can only be done once a week. As I mentioned before, use your abilities. There are different major artifacts you can use to help you restore your abilities, but it'll drop your health. I'm talking about Darkhold here, but be careful using those while you're in the face of your opponents. If you want to go around the corner and use it and then pick up some regen packs, perfectly fine. But if you are currently fighting them, do not use it. At the same time, I do recommend you use your abilities when you have them. Do not wait until you're trying to use them at a strategic time. If you are about to go down, but you're going to try and save your ability to use it when you think you have a better opportunity to hurt your opponent the most, use it to save yourself. Keep yourself alive at all costs. Do not risk going down. That about covers it for Elite Heroic Hives. If you guys have any questions about it or you want to know more about how to unlock these, drop it in the comments and I'll give it a look. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope that it did end up helping you. If it did, as I mentioned earlier, do me a huge favor and like and subscribe. It just is a cool little feature that I really would appreciate if you did. So with that, I will leave you guys and I hope you have a good day.